Welcome back to Bibles and Bullhorns, the evangelism podcast. I am still Jonathan Morris in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, and with me, as always, John Neifert. You're still John Neifert, right? In Pella, Iowa? No changes there?
Yes, still 100%.
The one and only. Yeah. John, what you got going on in your life these days? What can you tell us?
Yeah, boy, there's lots of things going on. I'm getting ready, just coming off a couple different travel items, and then getting ready to head off to Hawaii next week, right? And I'm hoping to go out there sometime while I'm in Hawaii, get out on the beach and share the gospel, maybe some open air or something like that. So
Nice.
I'm looking to that, saying it should be a unique experience.
Yeah, I'm sure there's worse places.
And everybody everywhere needs to hear the gospel, right?
Absolutely, yes. I'm sure there's worse places in the world to share the gospel than Hawaii, of all places, right?
Right.
So John, before I introduce our guest this time, you got time for a story? You got a minute for a story?
Sure, let's hear the story.
Okay, here's my story. Earlier this year, I was teaching an evangelism course at a church in New Jersey. And before the class started, I was talking, I may have been one of the pastors, I can't remember who I was talking to. And I was remembering a time, I've worked in sales basically my whole adult life. And my mentor in sales one time was joking about a sales rep who was so bad that we would have gotten better numbers if we strapped a vest to a dog, put some brochures in the pockets, and set it on to and set it out into the field. And I was joking with someone because in the world of sharing the gospel, there's a lot of people who know they're supposed to do it and oftentimes don't because they're a little nervous, right? And I think one of the themes that we've hammered here over the first however many months we've been doing this podcast, first year I guess it is almost at this point, is that it is for everyone, and that anyone really can do it. And I was joking, and I said, I think you could probably strap a vest to a dog, put some tracts in the pockets, and send it out onto the streets, and it would be fully capable of sharing the gospel, and God's word would still not return void even in that situation. So I go ahead, I get started with the evangelism class, and afterwards, somebody comes up to me, and she says, she introduces herself, and she says, what I do is I'm actually involved with an organization where we use dogs to share Christ. And I said, you got to be kidding me. This is perfect. So after I got over the initial shock and the laughter of that coincidence, I said, I think we should talk to you on Bibles and Bullhorns because this is great stuff. So that's who we have here with us today. We have Jill Marie Chambers, who has spent the last 5 years as a canine facilitator with an organization called Canines for Christ. Website is K9, the letter K and the number 9, canineforchrist.org. Jill Marie, thanks for joining us here on Bibles and Bullhorns.
My pleasure to be here.
Thanks for joining us. How you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
How are you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic. We're doing fantastic. It's story hour here. Jill Marie, so talk to us. How do you, I guess the first and foremost question I want to ask you is, how do you use a dog to share Jesus?
Well, I mean, if I may say so myself, I think my dog is adorable. And she loves people, so she always wants to say hi to people, and people just gravitate towards her. And I've been with Canines for Christ for about 5 years, and about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I customized her therapy dog vest because all the dogs at Canines for Christ are certified therapy dogs. So I took her therapy vest and I customized it and put pockets on it so that I could put Bible tracts in the pockets. And we would go out on boardwalks or go into stores, and people, they see the vest. So they always ask, can I pet your dog? And I'm like, yes, she's a therapy dog, not a service dog. She expects you to pet her. And of course they're petting on her and loving on her. And I try to get those little tracts that look like money. You've seen them, right?
$1 million bill.
So when they pet her, I say, and now I have to pay you for having pet my dog, and I hand them the Bible tract. And some people just say thank you and stick it in their pocket. And I say to them, just make sure you read it later. And some of them will look at it right away. And I always tell them, you know what, take it home and read it when it's a nice quiet time for you. And they'll say thank you and put it in their pocket. And I pray over each one. When I walk away, I just pray that that little seed fell on fertile ground. But she is a great icebreaker. I will admit it is very hard. I've been a Christian a long time, and it is still to this day very hard for me to just walk up to a stranger and tell them the good news of Jesus Christ. But Cookie's a great springboard to help break the ice. And so that's what we do. We do the regular therapy dog work where we visit people in hospitals and senior centers and things like that. But and we visit schools, so we do demos with kids and stuff. But my favorite thing to do is just approach people when we're out and hand out tracts. And the dog makes it easy. It really does. The dog makes it so easy because they're loving on the dog, and you just hand them the tract, and without even thinking, they're like, "Oh, thank you," and they take it. So.
I think Ray Comfort would agree with you on that, right?
Yes.
The dog makes that so much easier. But I love the creativity that you've got in there too. There's more than just one way to use a dog to share the gospel.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. That's her you hear in the background, by the way. Cookie.
Right.
Come on. Come here. Get your face over here. Come here. Come on, baby. Come on. Get your face over here. Get your face over here.
Well, there we see. There she is.
Yeah, that's my baby girl. That's my baby girl. All right, that's enough, sweetie. Yeah, she just loves people, and she's so affectionate. So it's, I find sometimes as an animal lover, sometimes when you start, talking about the Bible or God or Jesus Christ, people will clam up a lot of times. But when even like when you go to like senior centers and stuff, I've talked to people and they're, oh, can I pray with you? And they're like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. But when you go in there with the dog has a way of softening people. Like we get dopamine releases in our heads, and it makes us a little bit more receptive sometimes, I find, even when I've walked into, centers where I've asked people if I could pray with them, and they're like, no, but then they start petting Cookie, and within a few minutes you see them soften. And I'm like, well, now can I pray with you? And they're like, okay. It's really wonderful how the dog can really help soften people to be a little bit more receptive,
Yeah. On that note, Living Waters, who is one of the big producers of the $1 Million tracks, and there's others as well. The vast majority of the tracks that they produce are kind of cheeky or funny, and when I'm explaining to somebody, because there's sometimes you'll have some people who see the $1 Million tracks and they're a little turned off by the concept. Now, my observation is it's almost always a Christian who's never actually tried handing them out, but the general public usually loves them. But the whole idea is that, when you actually go and hand these things out, and I think this applies to the principle of bringing a dog with you as well, is it kind of tills the soil. It puts people in a good mood. You're giving them this $1 million bill, and honestly, more often than not, they're laughing. Yeah, of course, you get your occasional person. It's like, what is this? But the results tend to be that they make people smile, and I think that there's something to be said for that, because we're dealing with arguably the most serious message on earth, which is that if you don't believe in Christ, there's going to be some very bad things waiting for you on the other side. But by using humor, I would assume perhaps the same is true about using a dog. It kind of shows people that you're a human being and that you're there and you care. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I do. I definitely do. So besides the $1 Million tracks, I also got from a different website tracks that it's had a little picture of a beagle on the front. Beagles are adorable little dogs. A picture of a beagle, and it says man's best friend. And of course, when you open it up, it talks about why dogs are man's best friend, but goes into our true best friend is really Jesus Christ. And then it shares the gospel.
Nice.
So I like to give those, like when we do a children's demo with Cookie, we'll go to a school. I'll talk a little bit about therapy dogs and what we do. She's trick trained, so she does a lot of different tricks. So then we'll do like a tricks demo. And then, of course, being the therapy dog, all the kids get to come up and meet her, which is like the highlight. But with the older kids, I will give them one of those tracks with a beagle on it and ask them if they have any friends that love dogs but don't go to church. And they all say yes. And I say, give them this track. That's all you got to do. Give them the track. And I love it when kids go, can I have 3 or 4? I'm like, sure. You're asking for extras? Okay. And that's another way that, I use Cookie to get with these kids. We put on a demo for them. And, it's usually at a Christian school. We've never been invited to a secular school yet. We're still praying for that. But we've gone to a couple of Christian schools, a couple of VBSs that we've done. And I bring those tracks with me. And this way I'm trying to get the kids to evangelize their friends. It's easy. All you got to do is hand them the track. It's got a doggy on it. How bad could it be? I also get tracks from Ray Comfort that has dog training tips and trivia on it. And I'll take those and I'll go to the dog park because on the back, it's, one side it's got the dog info, on the back it's got the gospel. I'll go to a dog park and I'll hand those out because now as a dog trainer, okay, I don't like dog parks, but I go with an ulterior motive. I go to the dog park. People see my dog and how well behaved she is. She's like, how did you get her to be so well behaved? And I hand them the tracks that has training tips on it. And on the back, it's got the gospel. So I'm being a little sneaky. But again, I pray over it and say, you know what? This is a seed. I'm just tossing the seeds out there like a farmer does. Toss the seeds out. Pray that God waters them and makes them grow.
Yeah. As I like to say, you're showing them the worm and they get the hook.
Right.
We're fishing.
Right. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
We're trying to get the hook into them. So,
yep.
Yeah. No, and it's great. There's lots of different options for tracks with dogs and tying in with that as well. I find that people are very receptive if you have a specific tract and information that they want tied into either what you're doing or where you're at or things like that.
Right.
It's just, oh, hey, did you get one of these? It tells a little bit about, right, at our Tulip Gospel Outreach, right, we have a little bit of history of the town, right, which has Christian foundations and so on, and then we share the gospel through that.
Right.
But likewise with dogs, and I know Living Waters is doing they're doing the Paris Millions.
Right.
And all that. So
you think about it, Jesus did similar. Like when I think about the woman at the well, the woman was getting water, so he spoke to her about what she was interested at that point in time in water. So I go to places where people are interested in dogs, and I use my dog to share the gospel.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're very comfortable in this approach and
I am.
Different things. Yeah. How did you get started, right? Did you try and do it without dogs first? And
I did, and I wasn't very good at it, and I felt like I failed miserably, and I wasn't comfortable doing it. And so I got into Canines for Christ because I've wanted to do therapy work with animals like ever since I was a teenager. And never had the right animal, the right opportunity. And when we got Cookie, and I, in my heart of hearts, believe she is a gift from God. She really is. And when we got her and I saw how people oriented she is and how she just loves people, and when she greets people, she like leans into them and looks at their face, and she just so good at greeting people. I said, you know what? She would make a great therapy dog. So I started doing the training, and I originally got involved with one organization that I didn't I didn't really like a lot of their, how to put this tactfully. I didn't like a lot of their rules because they it just didn't set well with me how they were running the organization. So one day I sat down and I said, you know, like, well, one of the things with this other organization I was with is I could not talk about religion with anybody. You were there just to comfort them with the dog. And I said, but in my heart, I want to share Jesus with people, with my dog. You know, God's blessed me with this great dog. It's only right that I share her with other people and maybe bring them the love of Jesus at the same time. So one day I sat down and typed in Christian Therapy Dog Organization, and Canines for Christ came up. And I couldn't believe that there was actually a Christian organization that we do the typical therapy work, but at our heart, we want to share the love of Jesus with others.
Yeah.
And so I applied to be a member and became a member. And along the way, they made me a chaplain. And then I became the canine facilitator because of my training experience. So what that means is I help our members if they have any training or behavior issues. I try to, solve those problems for them and work with them to try to
Okay.
help them out, because sometimes behavior issues do pop up, you know. So I just try to walk them through that and help them out with that.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So good.
Yeah,
Thanks
so
for
that's how it happened. I really wanted to do therapy work with Cookie, but I wanted it to be that Christian message, you know, that message of the good news of Jesus that I wanted to share. So,
Yep.
You know, one
and if I
time I
can
was
say so, we are a great organization. Our members are so caring and helpful. It's just absolutely wonderful dealing with all of
Yeah.
them. This just really is.
one time I was handing out tracts and Bibles in Cleveland a few years ago, and it had already gotten dark out, but there was a big public event, and I went to offer someone a tract, and I didn't see anything. Just all of a sudden, I felt the clamping down of my hand of the woman's dog, and
Oh,
yeah, and it was like a baby pit bull, so like it had a little strength behind its bite. Um, and it was actually, for me, it was actually kind of like a good memory, because even though it hurt, I held on to the tract. So I kind of thought that was kind of cool, because I never let go, and it was all like crumpled up and covered in doggy saliva. But when she came over to check on me, I was like, I'm fine. I just wanted you to have this, and she had to take it. At that point, her dog bit me. She had to take
yes.
it.
Yes,
So
Ultimate to it, right?
do you ever? Now it sounds like Cookie is a great dog, but
she is.
do you ever have not confrontations, but you ever struggle where, like, somebody else has a dog and their dog has a problem with your dog? 'Cause I know dogs are, they're dogs. They're the way that they are. Has there ever been any like chaos on that front, or has everything been pretty peaceful for you?
No, no, not really, because Cookie is so calm and well behaved, and but I'm very proactive to keep her safe. So if I do see someone with a dog that their dog is acting up and is out of control, and it appears to me that they can't get their dog under control, I won't approach them. You know, I'm not going to do anything that's going to put Cookie at risk of getting hurt. So yeah, if their dog is lunging and snapping and misbehaving in a way that I'm afraid that dog is going to go after Cookie, I'm just not going to approach that person.
You just stay out of it. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
stay out of it. I want to share the gospel, but not at the risk of seeing my dog get ripped up. Sorry. It's important to me, to keep her safe. And you know what? I think it's important to God too. Proverbs 12:10 says that the righteous person cares about their animal. So it's important to consider the well-being of the animal that God's entrusted to you. I feel her care has been entrusted to me. I need to show honor to that. So I do my best to take good care of her and keep her safe. So.
Yeah, Jill Marie, you've got a YouTube channel.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and I haven't looked at every video, but I've gone out there to check a few things out, and it looks like you've got a really wide variety
Yeah.
of different things out there.
Yeah.
Can you tell us? I mean, highlight maybe some of the things if someone's new to this.
Um,
What are the key ones they want to look at?
well, I do like to put up some inspirational videos, where I just share, Christian, biblical messages, usually based on something I feel God is teaching me through my dog. For example, if I can share this little story, when I'm preparing food in the kitchen, my dog is sitting at my feet, staring up at me. And it doesn't matter how many times I say no, she can't have anything. She just keeps staring at me. She doesn't whine. She doesn't jump. She's not rude. She's just staring at me. And I'm walking back and forth in the kitchen and her eyes are glued on me. And one day I thought to myself, this is the way we're supposed to be with God. We are supposed to keep our eyes on him no matter what. And we are supposed to pray incessantly, no matter how many times we have to pray. If it's within God's will, we just keep praying. And I feel like when she's sitting there going, give me the food, and I'm telling her no, there is some point, I will admit, where I go, you've just been such a good dog, just waiting and waiting and waiting. Here's that piece of chicken, and I throw the piece of chicken. And she's so happy about it. And I feel sometimes like that's the way our prayer life should be, right? To pray constantly without ceasing, keep our eyes on God no matter what. And so I'll do little devotions like that, that things I feel like God's trying to show me, his word says that you could learn about God through his creation. I also do a lot of mountain biking, camping, backpacking. So I do videos on backpacking, camping food reviews. I do have some training videos on there, some dog training videos. I don't really like to do dog training videos very much because to me, training a dog isn't like making those cookie cutter cookies. For me, training a dog is very relational. It's about the relationship between you and the dog. And so when you do a training video about how to do a training technique, it might work for 9 out of 10 dogs, but then that 10th dog, it might not work, and you have to do something a little different. So I do training videos, but I don't do a lot of them. Most of them are about what you could have in your dog. And then if you want to learn how to train for it, you can contact me. So that's,
can you share with people how to find that YouTube channel? Because we're talking about it and we didn't mention the name.
Yeah, it's probably the best thing to do is put a link in this video description, because for some reason it's really, my channel doesn't always come up when you type in the name. So the name is really kind of funny. It's Bosom Buddy Creations. But if you type in Bosom Buddy Creations / Jill Marie, you'll probably get it. Why it doesn't show up well, I don't know. And there's a funny story to the name Bosom Buddy Creations. It has to do with previous pets and products that I used to make for the pets.
So you said you were out camping and backpacking. Do you have a dog backpack too then?
You mean a backpack that she wears? Or one that I carry her in? No, she does wear a very small backpack that just has a couple little things in it for her. Cookie does have a little back issues, so I don't put a lot of weight on her to carry. I get stuck carrying all of her stuff.
That's probably from carrying all those tracks, right?
Yeah. So when we backpack together, she carries minimal stuff, and I will admit that my pack is pretty heavy, but it's what I do for her. So
The weight of the Great Commission
Yeah.
is heavy, you know.
yeah, yes.
You, if we can move backwards for just a moment. So, a
Sure.
little earlier, we were talking about Ray Comfort, who famously for years had his dog Sam on his bike, and then after Sam had passed away a few years ago, he's got a new dog named Lucy. They're both very cute dogs, and people love them.
Yes.
Ray is a very big proponent of using a dog to soften people's hearts to hearing the gospel. He's got some videos about. I think the title of his video is like why every Christian should own a dog.
Should own a dog. Yes, I agree.
Yep, I think he's got. There's at least one book I've read by him. It might have been called By All Means, where I think he talks about the same thing. So before we started recording, we were chatting a little bit, and you were talking about how using Cookie in this manner has really, especially helped you personally overcome your fear of sharing the gospel.
Yes.
And this is probably I'm sure we have some people who are listening to us who share the gospel all the time, and then no doubt we have some people who've never shared before and they're just looking for their in. But honestly, whether you've shared it never or you've shared it a million times, I think you still kind of get nervous every time. So can you talk a little bit about how she's helped you overcome that fear and how that might help other people overcome the fear of evangelizing?
Well, for me, the conversation becomes about Cookie, and then we could just kind of slide into the Jesus stuff. I get a little performance anxiety. So when I go up to talk to people before I got Cookie, I would just stumble over my words. I didn't know what to say. I would be nervous. I would feel like I sounded stupid. And sometimes I wouldn't even know how to start the conversation. Like, how do you just walk up to somebody and say, "Oh, Jesus loves you"? Here, like I just can't do like what Ray Comfort does. I've just never been able to do that. He makes it sound and look so easy, but it was never easy for me. And using Cookie, when I approach people, because they look at her, they want to pet her, she's cute. They ask if they can pet her, and they're petting her. And then it's easy for me because I start talking about the dog. I'll say, yeah, she's a good dog. She's a gift from God. I thank God for her every day. This is one of the things I say every day to people. I thank God for my dog. And so now all of a sudden you've just brought God into the picture. And sometimes I will start talking about God and the Bible and Jesus. And other times I just hand them the Bible tract. That's it. I just hand them the tract and say, here, put this in your pocket and read this a little bit later. And then I always pray, either before or after the fact, or even sometimes even silently while I'm there, I'll just pray to let that seed fall on fertile ground and for God to water it and make it grow. But Cookie makes it easier for me because the conversation is more about the dog. It's her that has to perform, not me that has to perform. She has to greet the person. She's being polite. They're focusing on her. And I'm just in the background going, Jesus loves you. Here, take a Bible tract, and it makes it easier for me. I don't know if I could do it without her, to be honest with you. I don't know if that's a crutch or not, but
Doesn't really, honestly, it doesn't matter. You'll see guys out there, some guys who will share the gospel, they'll start by playing music, right? And it gathers a crowd. You could do magic tricks. You could probably there's Ben Price in Australia does some killer impersonations, and he can use it as a segue into telling people the gospel. It must be nice to have a talent. I don't have any, but if you have one, you should definitely use it.
Yeah, use it.
Right. So that's one of the things too. I like the fact that Cookie is trained to do various tricks, because depending on how long I have with the person, I can say, oh, like, do you ever pray to God? Well, Cookie prays to God, and then I tell her to say her prayers, and she does that trick, and it makes them laugh. And and again, like you were saying before, when people are laughing and smiling, they're more receptive. They really are. Um, if they're petting my dog, I know they're not going to start screaming and yelling at me. You're petting my dog. You're not going to be like, get away from me. They're going to be receptive to what I hand to them. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, since JD's told a story, I'm going to ask you to tell a story, right? Tell us maybe a little bit about one of your favorite interactions and sharing the gospel with Cookie.
well, I'm going to tell you one of my favorite interactions, but it doesn't necessarily have to do with sharing the gospel. Is that okay? It's with the
Sure.
kids.
Oh,
So Cookie and I have been doing this about 5 years, and she still likes greeting people out on the street, but she doesn't really like doing the therapy visits anymore, like going to senior centers and the hospitals and things. She doesn't like that as much anymore. She's getting a little tired of it, I think. And that's okay. She's been doing it for 5 years. She's okay to retire. But she loves kids. And she loves doing, like, entertaining kids. Like, when I bring her to a kids demo and she's doing her tricks, she is having a ball because the kids are clapping and they're laughing, and she loves that positive energy. So when we do kids demos, it never fails. There's always one kid in class who says that they're scared of dogs. And there's different reasons why. Some of them have said they've been bit by a dog jumped up on them and knocked them down, or they're just in a family that doesn't have dogs, so they don't understand them and they're scared. And every time that we have a child who says they're scared of dogs, I always hold Cookie and I say, especially because it's at a Christian school, so it's a child in a Christian household. I go, you don't need to be scared of her. She's a Christian dog. She's a Jesus dog. There's no reason to be scared. And I'll start out by just, like, I'll hold Cookie and I'll put Cookie's tail towards them, and they touch her tail, and then I'll stroke her backside and they'll touch her. And I love when the kids finally just pet her and, like, kiss her on the head, or they're petting her face. And there's been times where there was this one girl who actually started to cry. She's like, I can't believe I'm petting a dog for the first time in my life. And that warms my heart, because to see some of these kids that are, that have been badly treated by a dog, to overcome that fear and pet her, that makes me so happy. That makes me so happy.
yeah.
Yeah, we've changed at least 8 kids, at least 8 kids in the last 2 years, and to me, that's wonderful. And of course, they hear about Jesus too. But I just love the fact that
Yes.
they
Yeah.
overcome that fear.
Now we just need people to overcome their fear of God,
Yes,
right?
yes. And in fact, I do have a story about a woman who saw Cookie, and she was looking at Cookie and just really staring at her. So I looked at her and I was like, do you want to pet her? And she's, I'd love to. She's beautiful, but I'm afraid. And I said, there's nothing to be afraid of. And she's like, no, I was bitten in the hand by a big dog. And I go, she's not going to bite you. I said, she's a therapy dog for one. So she's well behaved. We're with Canines for Christ. So, she works for God. There's nothing to be scared of. She's the most loving dog you'll ever meet. And she actually did reach out at that point and pet Cookie. And I was able to hand her a track. So I feel that was like a good 2 for 1 right there. She overcame her fear, pet Cookie, and I gave her a Bible track. But as much as I was happy over that, it really hits me hard when the children, because when the children overcome that fear, you've now helped shape them as adults. I don't want those kids to grow up to be adults scared of dogs. So really love it when the kids overcome that fear.
Yeah. Um, Lord willing, someone somewhere who's been struggling to, rip the band-aid off and share the gospel is going to hear this and say, I can't imagine sharing the gospel, but I can imagine walking a dog out in public. How would somebody go about getting started with such a thing? Is there, if they don't have a dog already, is there a particular breed or a couple of breeds that you think would be really well suited to this kind of work? What's your advice for someone looking to start out?
It's important to find a dog that likes connecting with people. I wouldn't so much say a particular breed. It is definitely a very individual thing. Cookie is an Australian cattle dog, aka Blue Heeler. If you look them up on Google, the AKC people are going to tell you that cattle dogs are wary of strangers. My dog's not. My dog loves everybody. She's exception to the rule, but she loves everybody. So I think it's not so much breed, age, or size. You got to get a dog that loves connecting with people, a dog that is going to look at your face and spend time looking at your face. When you pet them, maybe they lean into you a little bit. They don't just stand there and jump on you, but they actually want to lean on you and connect with you. I think that's more important. Find a dog that really likes connecting with people, and not necessarily in an exuberant like, "Ooh, I love you," like golden retrievers. They want to jump up and lick everybody to death. But it's funny because golden retrievers are really popular therapy dogs because they do like people.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do this kind of work, it's important to get your dog well trained. So to be a therapy dog, they have to pass what is called a Canine Good Citizen test. We call it a CGC test. And you can train your dog yourself. You don't have to get a professional trainer to do it. But there's a guideline of things that the dog has to be able to do in order to be a therapy dog. Of course, if you're not going to be part of a therapy dog organization, just get a nice dog, keep him clean, train him well, feed him well, so that he looks nice, he smells nice, and get one that likes dealing with people. And you can go out and evangelize. You don't have to have a therapy dog to evangelize. you know.
On that note, Canines for Christ, are you guys in all 50 states?
We are. In fact, I have a note here that says we are in, we have over 1,200 members, and we're actually in 9 different countries.
Oh, okay.
So,
Wow.
Excellent.
yeah, we are considered a worldwide organization now. Nonprofit organization, of course.
Yeah, we'll put that website in the show notes at the end too.
Yeah, and if you're in New Jersey,
Yeah.
please join up. We need people. We definitely have a shortage in this state of members.
Yeah.
Well, Jill Marie, one last question
Sure.
from me, unless John has anything to add.
No, go ahead.
I don't have a dog, but I have a cat. How do you think he would do?
Well, does your cat like people?
Loves people. He loves. I have what's called a Bombay cat, and he followed us home when we were on a walk. We were actually sharing flyers or invitation to a live nativity in our neighborhood, and this cat followed us home, and I tried chasing him away, and then we stopped at a couple more houses, and we got to our house, and he was actually there waiting for us, if you could believe it. And he walked
Wow.
right in like he owned the place. I like to say that he sovereignly chose us, and but he is a people person. He turned out to be what's called a Bombay cat, and one of the nicknames for a Bombay cat, they call them Velcro cats because they stick to
Oh,
people.
yeah, Velcro cat.
So, but he probably, I don't know if he would hold up in public.
Well,
him.
I had 2 cats in the past that were both leash trained, and I would walk them around town
It's not easy.
in a harness and leash, just like you would a dog. So
Yeah,
now
there you
think
go.
about this. If you leash trained your cat and got him used to being outside and approaching people, I mean, that is a great conversation starter. So people are
Yeah.
going to come over to you and like, wow, you leash trained your cat? Yes. And hand him a tract. I think that's a great idea.
I mean, you might be able to get away with putting like a little like brochure holder on like the back of like a turtle, but you'd cover a lot less
Yeah.
ground with a turtle than a dog. I don't know what other animals are eligible for.
Just not set for this fast paced
No.
world, right?
No, but
I think the cat's a great
slow and
idea,
steady
though.
wins the race.
I think the
Yeah.
cat is a good
Now,
idea.
Yeah.
I've got a cat, and I don't know if Jonathan, if you've seen him, I think he's got some rag doll in him, and well, her, I guess, but she loves to just crawl up on my shoulders and then flop down.
Yeah.
But
See, for me, the idea of the dog is the conversation starter.
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
a way of starting the conversation when I don't know how to start the conversation. I know how to start a conversation about the dog. I don't always know how to start a conversation about Jesus Christ because I don't know where the people are. You don't, when you're talking to somebody on the street, you don't know where they're at in their life. So you could walk up
yeah,
and say something and it could be like the worst thing to say, and,
Yeah.
but when you've got the dog, you just start talking about the dog.
And
So,
don't the tracks practically give themselves away at that point? I mean, you got a dog that's friendly, people are paying attention to it, and it's wearing the tracks
yes.
in on its back.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would almost think it would be hard for people not to take them. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I've actually had people reach into the pocket and go, "Oh, what are these?" and take one out. And I'm like, "You can have it." Yeah, that's happened a few
yeah,
times.
yeah.
So,
That's cool.
See, I'm getting ideas flowing now because we've got two dogs, right? We live on 30 acres, and they're more guard dogs, not in a mean to people sense, but keeping the predators away
right.
and so on. Um, the one is a cross between a Great Pyrenees and an Anatolian. He's about
Oh,
120 pounds, and he loves people. And maybe if I took him out, he would drag them into the kingdom, right?
yeah. I will tell you
My
though
wife, when
that
she goes out to do chores, right? She goes out to do chores, and he'll come up alongside her. He'll grab a hold of her hand with his mouth, and then just drag her where she's supposed to go. So
I will tell you though, if you
I think
put
we
any
can
kind
drag
of
people into the
a
kingdom that
vest
way.
on your dog holding tracks, you have to use some kind of a clip to keep them from flying all over when they shake. Because
Oh
sometimes I'll
yeah,
put the tracks in Cookie's vest, and she'll walk up to somebody and they'll pet her, and then she'll give a shake, and the brochures fly everywhere. But that can be kind of funny too, because now the people are helping you pick them up, and sometimes they look at them and they're like, "Oh, this looks interesting," and I'm like, "Go ahead, you can have one." So I've started using a
yeah.
little clip to kind of clip them to the pockets in her vest so that they don't fly all over.
You just like a little like a
I still
binder
like the
clip,
idea of
or
flying all over, though.
Say that again. I didn't hear you, Jonathan.
was it like a little binder clip or something? Just like clipping it to
Yeah,
the
like
side
a
of the box.
clothespin or something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jill Marie, this has been a fun conversation. This has been very different in a good
Yeah,
way, and I hope people get a lot out of this, and certainly even for those who who regularly share the gospel and maybe are seasoned enough that they don't think much of it at this point. It's a great way to to till the soil. So hopefully a lot of people with dogs give this a shot and go out there and see. It sounds like honestly it sounds like a very fun way to share the
It
gospel. Which
is.
is the other thing I'll add. I was talking before about how I think it's good when tracks are kind of fun, right? Because they put the other person in a good mood.
Yes.
But I like when it's fun for us too. Like I don't think evangelism needs to be a chore all the time. Sometimes
Right.
we can have fun and enjoy it too. And some of my favorite moments have been sharing the gospel. So
Yeah.
this definitely sounds like a fun way to do it. The
Yeah.
website again is canineforchrist.org. We'll try to remember to put your YouTube channel in the comments. That one's on
Okay.
you, John.
Thank you.
I'm putting
yep.
that onus on you. But yeah, Jill Marie, thanks again very much
Well, thank you for having
for
me.
joining us. It's really been great, John. I guess I'll see you next time, huh?
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Enjoy Hawaii, by the way.
Yes.
Yes, I will.
And thank you, folks, for joining us for another edition of Bibles and Bullhorns. Please do like and share this episode, and more importantly, share the gospel with someone
Yes.
today. See you next time.